The rumors of Gardevoir's death have been greatly exaggerated. Gardevoir EX has been a deck that has been dominating since its release in Scarlet and Violet in April of 2023, and many players have been saying with the introduction of Paradox Rift that Gardevoir has no place in the meta. Gardevoir EX is dead, Psychic Embrace is useless, Shining Arcana isn't a good card anymore, Iron Hands is just gonna beat you up. Well, all of these things might be true. But Gardevoir has still been recently performing at a lot of online tournaments, and I think Gardevoir still has a strong place in the metagame. Let me explain to you guys why. Gardevoir has been able to take a lot of different shapes and sizes, forms, whatever you want to call it, and adapt because the shell of Gardevoir is so powerful. Psychic Embrace lets you enable any Psychic type attacker as easily as possible. Now, Zacian V was a great way for us to one-shot a lot of Pokemon with the Forest Sealstone as a combination piece, which also let us play Luminion, but now the deck has shifted. Now we're playing more of a Screamtail approach with the Roaring Scream attack that does 20 damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. Now you're thinking, Rahul, there's only 90 HP on Screamtail. We can only put this at 80 and do 160 damage. Well, that's where my friends Luxurious Cape comes into play. If this Pokemon, this card it's attached to, does not have a rule box, it gets 100 HP, and if it's knocked out, you give it one more prize. But you're going to just use this to close out the game. We're going to use the Screamtail early, go to the Luxurious Caped Screamtail at the end of the game, and blow something up. Now keep in mind this can go on anything that doesn't have a rule box, so we can give our Gardevoir Shining Arcana a lot more HP as well. Let's go down the card-by-card breakdown of Gardevoir and why the matchups are still pretty good for it. If you guys enjoy this kind of content, please, by the way, like and subscribe. That's all you have to do to help out the channel. I appreciate that a ton. Now that you've done that, let's jump into the video. Gardevoir has evolved to a position where the list revolves around using Mirage Step a lot more than before because a lot of decks are big beat sticks that have to put two prizes into play. We have some new introductions to the beat sticks, namely Roaring Moon and Iron Valiant. However, Iron Valiant inherently is a bad matchup if they can just get the ball rolling and start yoga looping your Raltses, potentially just rapid flowing whatever you've got going. So that's a little bit of a dicey matchup. However, Roaring Moon, we just need to take 3 knockouts and the game is fundamentally over. It is a little bit dicey because Gardevoir EX is weak to Dark, so when you put one into play, they can boss it up and take the knockout. That being said, the one Shining Arcana Gardevoir you already powered up can take 4 prizes in that scenario. Miraidon has become more and more popular, which is a very good matchup for Gardevoir EX. Chien-Pao also has become very popular, which is a not so great matchup. And even if they do add Iron Hands, we're already conceding that matchup, I think. If they had Cologne Cross Switcher, that was already a pretty doomed matchup. If they had Iron Hands, that was a pretty doomed matchup. So why are we trying to fix a matchup that's already bad? Like, you just take one bad matchup and move on. You can't beat every deck in the Pokemon TCG. There are formats that we've been able to do that. This is not one of them. Now, the supporter line is a little bit interesting, and I'm still experimenting with it, but we have 4 Iono, 1 Avery, 1 Boss, 1 Worker, 1 Professor Turo Scenario, and 1 Zinnia's Resolve. Now, I think that Worker and Avery kind of fulfill the same slot if we expect Path. Worker is a Path-related card. It's just a draw 3. I don't really like researching in this deck, especially when you have all these combo pieces. You can't bring back Luxurious Cape. You couldn't bring back Forest Sealstone previously, and now you have cards like Counter Catcher to win you games when you are behind. Avery is really strong, I think, against decks like Chien-Pao, against decks like Mew, decks that want to flood their board and do something. If you can chain Avery's 2 turns in a row, maybe it's just really good. So I think maybe 2 Avery's better than Worker, but if you don't know what you're going into, like, Worker is better than Avery if you expect Path. Avery is better than Worker if you don't expect Path, I think. Professor Turo Scenario is like a get out of jail free card, basically. Like, you could have a Gardevoir that has like 300 damage on it and just pick it up. You just pick it up and put it back down in so many scenarios. It's just like a penny on crack for this list, and I think this deck has been missing something like that. It used to be really, really good with the existing penny, but now we're in a situation where this card just becomes significantly better. Zinnia's Resolve, I think, has been showing up in more and more lists. Fabien Puyol played it in his top 8 and I think 9th place as well list in Gardevoir. Zinnia's showing its, like most boards will fill up to 4 or 5 or even 6 Pokemon super early on. So an early Zinnia's Resolve is probably one of the best supporters you can ask to see. You can put energies into the discard, set up your board, flood your hand, and all of a sudden you've got like a 12 card hand to start working with before you even refinement the turn after you Mirage Step. So all of a sudden your board is Turn 1 or turn 2, you curl your Mirage Step, get 3 refinements out. Turn 2, Zinnias. Draw 6 off of the back of that, and then you can start refinementing. So you're seeing 6, 8, potentially, or sorry, 6, 12, potentially 14 off the Arcana, potentially 16 off of Greninja. So you're seeing a fourth of your deck in a singular turn because of this card like Zinnia's Resolve. 4 Battle VIP Pass, I think, is very standard staple. Oh, let me dial it back a little bit. Sorry. Jirachi is not included in this list because I feel like you don't really have the bench space to accommodate for all of those things. And Cresselia is kind of already our lost box answer. Cresselia plus Manaphy are our lost box answers. And Screamtail being a one prizer as well can be a good trade-off, especially in something like Lost Box that has a lot of small dudes. And you can Luxury Escape it and then just Turo it later on if you don't want to have it take the heat. With Churro and Pokemon League Headquarters, our Lost Box matchup should be pretty decent. Same with Tina. Tina's just going to Path Judge us. Or Path Iono, Roxanne, sorry, whatever. And then the end of the game, we just want to go ahead and League Headquarters and put them in an awkward spot. Force them to use Tina, which they don't really want to do. They want to be using Sableye over and over again. So we can League Headquarters and just set up a way to win the game that way. Greninja is a standard staple of this deck. You can't play without it. I'm a little apprehensive about playing without Zacian because Zacian is really good at closing out KOs at the end of the game, but we don't really have as many big threats that used to exist as before. There's no Arc Duraludon right now. There's no 3 prize behemoths. Urshifu is weak to Psychic. Gardevoir Mirror is not really a thing. You can also just Screamtail, Luxury Escape it. So I'm not really too worried about that. You have so let's jump into the items. We have 4 VIP Pass, 3 Level Ball, 3 Fog Crystal, 3 Ultra Ball. This is the consistency engine I've always been playing in Gardevoir. You can, I guess, play 4 Level Ball if you want to and 2 Fog Crystal if you want to lean heavier into the Mirage Step. But I feel like if you do that, you're missing out on a lot more chances to find energies early. And finding energies is one of the harder parts for me when I'm playing this deck early. I like to lead into the 3rd Fog Crystal. We have 2 Super Rod and 2 Rare Candy. The deck used to have 3 Rare Candy, but I think we're leaning more into the heavily Mirage Step build. So these candies become less and less useful as the game goes on, and your opponent's going to assume you already play 3 anyway. So we're not really trying to make a crazy candy Guardy play on turn 2 or anything anymore. You can get a Candy Guardy into Cresselia play with the Moondual Reverse on turn 2 against something like Lost Box. Still very good, but Lost Box is now less of a deck. It's not going to be 15% of the meta share like it's been, and decks like Tina are a little bit slower anyway. 1 Counter Catcher replaces one of our boss's orders. I'm not entirely fully sold on this just yet, because if we prize the 1 boss, we can't really Palpat or Gust back. But if Gardevoir is ahead, the logic is that you don't care what's in the active, you're just going to keep knocking it out if you're ahead on prize cards and if you're ahead on board. But if you're behind, you really want to make a play where it's like Counter Catcher Iono, and that combination is just too juicy to pass up for me. Where you can just bring up a big thing they've been setting up, or the thing that is their consistency, like bring up a barrel, for example, and Iono, and that now your Hail Mary can secure itself over a couple turns rather than having to boss this one turn and then Iono the next turn, which gives them more time to fill their hand, play cards, do stuff with their 15 card hand or something they've already got. So Counter Catcher is a great addition to this deck. Palpad, banger, you need it. We played a lot of 1-of supporters. It is what it is. Luxury Escape is very interesting. I really like it. Even though it does give a +1 prize card, it does help you shore out the end of games really easily. Your Gardevoir Shining Arcana just becomes a Zacian. Your Screamtail just becomes this tank that can snipe anything in the game. One-shot anything in the game, by the way, because you put 200 damage counters on your Screamtail if you have all your Psychics. Artisan is very useful in the early game. I think I've always liked Artisan as a stadium. There is League H Quarters, which I think is very, very good for the late game against Sableye decks. If you don't expect too much path, you can make League HQ into a baby Mew. But this build, I have not been leaning into Mew too much. I think you don't really need it. You just kind of play for the turn 2 Mirage Step more than often than not. Collapse is really good because you can bump stuff like Greninja off your board, your Gardevoir EX off your board. You can make a pretty insane turn where you go collapse something off Turo in the same turn. Just kind of wipe a lot of damage off the board against decks that like to spread. Again, Valiant is one of those decks that likes to spread, but you're just trying to make it past turn 2 against Valiant, and if you do, you probably win the game anyway, because they're just a deck that tries to beat you early. There's 10 psychics and 2 reversals. I think this is the perfect amount of energy. This has been proven time and time again since Torrid's top 4 list. 2 reversal gives you a lot of options, lets you put it down early, gives you a way to just kind of brainwave knock out some stuff with 2 reversals that you don't get to do otherwise. So Gardevoir is not dead. Let me know if you're a Gardevoir enjoyer. If you made it this far, just type in Gardy Forever in the comments or something. Are you a Gardy lover, hater, whatever? Let me know in the comments. I hope you guys enjoy this. Gardy is still around. Have a lot of fun with it. And I hope you're having fun in Paradox Rift. Peace out, guys.